So I might do a bit, and then I might switch to your camera, and I'll switch to my camera.
Okay, sweet.
So I'm Odyssey of Odyssey Eurobeat. I invited several people to be up here, and I don't really have a proper head count, but it's more just to keep my facts in line, and
we'll shout at you from here.
Please do. Yeah, just Statler and Walder from here. But they said you brought up talent. Why are you here? No! Okay, so this was originally, like my experiences with playing at pony conventions, but I figured I'd do something like, the original plan was to have like what people, should know about getting booked at conventions, what to expect, that kind of thing, and some of what happens on the performer side, as well as some of what happens on the convention side, to just sort of clarify what happens and some misconceptions that I've heard. Now, this is from like 2015, so there's some stuff in here that's probably still like, oh, yeah, that's not a thing anymore. So feel free to bear with me, and I'll probably be like, that's not a thing anymore. So, let's go to the next one. Hey, you! Have you been to this or another convention? Are you a musician and a fan of the show? Have you thought about performing? How about with a huge supportive crowd? Hugeness of crowd and supportive crowd notwithstanding. Then you might look a bit like this hearing about that.
Same.
So, you too might look like a menu. So, performing at cons is really fun. It's fantastic work. I love doing it, and it's, there are very few that I'll turn down for, it's just something that I love doing, and I imagine it's what we all love, love doing or love putting together. Yeah. So, this is a little bit of what you might be looking into if you are interested in performing at a con. So, where do we start? I found that having some kind of listenable music works, and listenable varies. You could just be like Pony Venetian snares, and that could still work, as long as you have a body of work to work with. Ideally, it should also be MLP related. If you're playing a Pony Con, you should probably have Pony music somewhere in there. You should be active within the community. Some kind of social, some way to promote that you're doing these things in the first place. Fame is actually not necessarily required here. I've actually had to retool this from the original version because, there are plenty of people that started playing cons before they had any kind of horse fame. And some people that are performing still don't have it. And actually, it's kind of nice because, they come, they play, they do a fantastic job, and they're not bogged down with, it's not because they have, high social stats, it's because they can actually perform, which is the next point.
I know, I'll just jump in there. I know some of the cons actually specifically seek out performers who don't have followings as well. I know Luckrock, who runs, I think, all of the Midwest cons, at every con he tries to have someone who's not horse famous.
Yeah, I know for us, we are looking for someone who knows what they're doing. So we don't check the followers at all. If your audition's good, then you will be accepted. That's the bottom line for us.
Yeah, that's a trend that I've seen a lot, actually, in the last few years. It's less about social stats and more, can you perform? Will you drive people out of the room? Can you do the job? And actually, with the lower following thing, what I would find, I would venture to guess that means they're easier to book. To some extent, it's like, okay, they're still, they're putting stuff out there, and you have folks like how to organize where it's like there's a bit more demand. It's like, okay, yeah, we need flight and hotel and all these things, which we'll discuss later, but for folks that might be running smaller numbers, is that sense of like, oh yeah, just let's work that out. The numbers are not everything. You do not need to be this horse famous to perform at cons. In fact, it might work against you. Performance though, being able to prove that you can perform. If you have an audition, if all you have is a video of you actually spinning on decks or playing your guitar and it does not sound like someone is ramming like something studded through your ears, you're probably going to be doing okay. Because a lot of times, they'll be able to make something, but how do you actually get it out there? If you can show that you can put on a show or a performance, that's actually of more value, I would think.
Yeah, I agree with that. Being able to produce a song and being able to perform on a stage are two very different skills.
Sure.
Oh, nice, graphic.
Woohoo! We have fun here. So we'll touch back on a little bit of that. So the first thing that I'll usually do is, this is actually a little bit outdated. So there's two ways that a lot of cons will do things, at least in my experience. They will either put out applications and request auditions, or they will approach you. In most cases, what I've seen lately is the submission approach, the application approach. So, they'll usually ask for things like your artist name, the genres that you perform. They might want to see some of your work. This is where you would send. This is where you would send the video of you performing. Like, that would be a big deal. Any previous performances or experience, why choose you? This is actually where it's important to market yourself, because it's like, hey, in my case, if I was starting now, it's like, hey, I'm a DJ, but I also sing, and I do this kind of unique genre. That would be my sort of why choose me kind of thing. It's like, hey, I've done these things in the past, and this is what I bring that's different from any show, but I can still perform, in a way that keeps crowds around. The polite closing statement is more for the next thing, but I just wanted to run it by. Am I speaking out of my butt here, or is this fair?
Yeah, pretty good, yeah. Yeah, I really don't know what else to add to that. And sometimes they have, if a con has a website, they might have this as a submission form on a page on the website.
Yeah, if you're interested in performing at a specific con, I recommend looking for their social media. They'll usually announce when those announcements are out, or when those applications are out, or just on their website. So, I think we already just covered this one. So treat these like you would a job search, like a job application. Fill out the form. It's okay to follow up with an email, once, after a week. Be prepared to fill in stuff, or it's like, hey, I felt in the form, I might have answered this poorly. Here's the actual answer, but one follow up is nice. A lot of the music liaisons and folks running the concerts are very busy, so one and done. Do not stress them out more than they need. Don't give them more work than they need. So a lot of cons don't have applications. Sometimes it's not clear what they're doing, or they might be doing applications and they've done a poor job of reaching out. So it takes some digging, but it's worth finding the email address of the music liaison or whoever's in charge of the concert. And just basically write a short, brief email that would cover the same things in an application. Hi, I'm this, I perform these genres, here's a video of me performing. I played at these cons, or this, I'd love to bring this to my first con. Less is more, brief introduction, a couple videos. Good balance between pitching yourself and not going overboard. It's like, I am the next Jesus of music performance. Everything I touch turns to diamonds. I need $5,000 for an appearance fee. Also, you should like, comment, subscribe. Here's my merch store. I am Skrillex 2.0, and also Jesus. Again, just reinstating that. Scale it down. Yeah. But also don't be, well, no one's gonna give me a chance, but I figured I'd apply anyway. I play piano, and that's all I do. No one's gonna want to book that. It's good to have a little bit of confidence as well.
And it's worth applying anyway, because you might have heard the saying, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So it's better you apply and get rejected than you not ever apply at all. So
Can I add something to that? I will say I don't feel like you have to apply it to the big cons only.
Yeah.
Go approach the smaller cons first, because that might even just give you a stepping stone into the big cons if you want that later.
Yeah, a lot of the smaller cons, especially in the States, the folks that are running it are usually either they're already very well established and they do have some sense of what's going on, or they're volunteers and they might need a hand with hey, here's who's playing, here's who's bookable, that kind of thing. Either way, presenting yourself as a resource is valuable. So, whichever cons you want to play. I love playing big cons, small cons, cons that are 4 days, cons that are 2 days, anime cons, Brony cons. This could kind of stretch beyond, this is somewhat pony catered because, there's horses in it. But this more or less applies to a lot of other convention scenes as well. I just actually kind of like it.
There's nothing at all touching the audio from this laptop. I don't know how.
It's all good, man. I actually dig it. So, this probably should have been after the next one. So, you were talking about, you miss the shots that you don't take, but this will invariably happen. There will be conventions that say, no, sorry, thank you for applying, we have gone with someone else. It might even have to do with you. Like, there are so many factors that go into which acts get booked. They might only have a limited budget. They might have, there might be another act that's giving them a lot of trouble. They might have just found out that the concert portion of the budget just got shafted to book, something else. There are so many things, but whatever happens, whatever it is that happened with the event, be respectful, be kind, don't trash talk them afterwards, like, if they didn't book me, they only want EQD, but like, don't do that. So this is kind of carryovers from back in those days. And just keep applying, don't lose hope. Just because, like, there's the one gig that didn't work out, there will, keep applying, keep putting stuff out there, refine your craft, and there will be one that says, yes, you are what we're looking for, let's get you up on stage.
And if you don't go and stay in a room and have a war over the fact that you didn't get in, sometimes showing up to the con and someone gets dropped out, you might actually be able to play there.
Lavender Harmony
and me and Pegasus. So it's anything can happen. So don't go blowing all your chances just because you got a bit upset. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Be on good terms and things can work out. So, if they do get back to you, I actually really like that. So there's a couple other things. Working on yes or no. The con might be, okay, so what do you need? Here's what we can offer. Know what you need to get to the event. Can you drive to the con? Do you need to get flown out? I would do a terrible job walking here. So, in my case, I did, if they wanted me here, I, requested a flight, and that was very well taken care of. Do you need a place to sleep, or do you have a buddy that lives nearby? Do you need a con badge? It's surprising. Okay, not in the pony scene, because at these cons, they tend to let you come in and actually do the thing, but their local con, Fanime, bless their hearts, I love them to death, but if you're a DJ there, you also need to buy your badge.
That happened at AliCon last year too.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm not joking. John Kenza had to buy his ticket to play. I'm glad to see it happen, yeah.
I'm glad to see some of this is still relevant.
Yeah.
Well, glad, that's okay, bad word choice, but, so will you need a con badge? Will you need housing? Will you need a flight? Will you need a food stipend? Will you need a place to sell CDs or a way to recoup expenses? Because flying to these does cost money. You're going to need to eat, and you're probably not bringing a bag of sandwiches to where you're flying, especially if you're flying out and from outside of Australia in. They will check your bag for apples if you say you have them, and they will throw you away. Sorry is not an acceptable excuse. But know what the con needs to afford you. In this case, what will you do for the con? It's not just a matter of, you go up on stage. Those are the play and sync buttons for the record. What will you do? What is your appeal to it? Is it, does it start and end with, I'm a different kind of musician for the thing? Is it, do you bring a dynamic show? Do you bring panels? Do you bring value? This is a big thing. It's worth, starting out, I wouldn't worry about that all too much, but once you start having a couple of cons under your belt, it's like, okay, so what do I do well? What might I need to work on? And, what do I bring to a con? It's okay to have a contract. You don't need to get what's the word? An attorney to make it, full on. If you have that kind of money, go nuts. But just something that says that, commits to paper, here's what the con will offer, here's what the artist will offer, and here's here's what'll happen if that doesn't work out. It's, not every con has one, not every act has one, but that is a thing. That's just one way to sort of make sure that everything's in order. A lot of cons have a very, 1 or 2 page, pretty rudimentary contract. It's worth reviewing just to make sure that everything's good, that the con's getting theirs and you're getting yours. Let's see. Oh, by the way, ROI. Roy, who's that? ROI means return on investment. Did the con get, I think we already covered that. Are you getting it with booking sales, promotional, blah, blah, blah. And that's the rejection, we covered that. So maybe you got the gig. Yay, do a happy dance. So now what do? You're booked, you're announced, you've got that big old spread on Twitter and Facebook. Now what? You're going to want details on how long the set is. How much material do you need to prepare? How many songs do you have? I say this, of course, I forgot how many minutes I was supposed to play this con, so believe me, this is coming back to bite me in the butt. What kind of equipment will you need to bring? You need a way to connect your stuff to the house. Do you have a guitar? Do you have a way to connect your guitar to the house? Maybe you need a sound card. Like, actually, I can only really speak from the DJ side of things for the most part. Like, what's the experience with, like, what for the people that, like, play real instruments? I need to know.
Yeah, well, obviously, if you're flying away to a con, you need to either organize, like, a backline, like you need an amp or something if you're playing guitar, or if you're like me, you just bring, like, a pedal and just hook that straight up to front of house. Yeah, I've specifically organized a rig which is very, like, it fits in a guitar case, so I don't have to worry about that sort of thing.
Instruments can be pretty expensive to take on flights, so if it's possible to find someone who's local who can let you use their instruments for the duration of your set, that's really, really helpful and really cost effective.
And don't get blood on it.
Whoops. Try not to. One thing I will say, sorry. One thing I will say for the DJ side of things, there's kind of two approaches you can do, or even less DJ and more just electronic performance. You don't need to be a DJ to do electronic music. It is the simplest way, and in that case, all you really need is like either a DJ controller or at least some kind of sound card that spits out RCA. Just some way to connect to the front of house. You know, some will take XLR, some will take RCA. It's worth looking up like what you're working with and what the house is working with, and bring a couple of spare cables. On the same token, a lot of cons will have a set of CDJs and a DJM mixing console. So if you have a USB thumb drive, like one of these, with record box, and you can just run cue points and all that through that, then that works pretty universally. So that's one way to have a backup. What I like to do actually is I'll usually bring redundancies. So if my controller petered out midway through the set, I would have the other two controllers there, and then have a spare sound card. So if we really need to, rewire a couple things, then the show could still go on. But usually know how you're going to connect to the front of house. I think
talk to the people running the audio. It's really handy when they know what you're going to be doing, and especially if you're bringing a weird setup like loop hoof, and then the AV team has no idea what you're doing, and then your set gets delayed, and yeah, that's fun.
Woohoo!
The other thing I'll add is for people who are not DJs, like if you're playing guitar or whatever on stage, you'll either have to organize probably a backing track or have a band on stage, which is a whole other thing that I won't get into. But if you've got a backing track, you'll also need to figure out some way of playing that on stage. So my own setup, I just play it from my phone, and I have cables set up so I can split it and have just a click track in my own ears. Some people don't worry about that, they just play it from a phone or whatever and just send it straight to front of house.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can get the sound people to play it for you as well. That can work as I sometimes have that as a backup, so if for whatever reason my backing track read doesn't work, I'll just hand a thumb drive to the sound person and be like, can you play this? And that's happened a couple of times that I've had to resort to that. So, so just again, having backups for that is a very good idea.
That actually lends to one thing that I'll touch on super quick. Is that okay?
Hopefully.
That touches on another thing. Like I was talking about, one doesn't necessarily have to DJ. You can kind of put together your own performance method. Like I've seen people with guitars, but they'll have like a MIDI controller, launching different tracks or different, parts of a track. Like there's so many different ways to do it. Like know how you're going to connect to the house, but then also know what you're going to be doing. Like that's totally fair. It does not have to be like I am DJ or I am an acoustic instrument. I'm Kermit. Whichever one's going to work.
He Las Vace, I'm not sure how many people know them. They had a plastic toy cat piano, and they brought that on stage. So you can really be really malleable and versatile with however you want your set.
Yeah, like it's okay to be creative with that. I've gone on a good bit about like the audio gear and whatnot. Travel itinerary. You deal with a lot of airports. You're gonna need to figure out how do I get from the airport to the hotel. Do they have shuttles? Do you need to take a lift? Do you need to take a taxi? Do you have cash? And then of course from the venue back to the airport. Do you need to take a taxi? Do you have cash? Other details about your part, just and then what you'll need to pack. Add a day to the number of days that you'll be there and pack that many clothes. And then that goes double for socks and underwear kind of thing, because life happens, and sometimes you'll need to do that. You don't want to be that one person that's like, oh, I flew in. I can smell your country from here. Like, I can smell that you have traveled and done nothing else. Bring toiletries, bring clothes, just bring what you need. Calculate that ahead of time. And that's before,
We kind of covered.
Yeah, we covered that a little bit. Practice. Oh yeah, so first of all, don't miss sound check. Second of all, don't miss sound check. I have seen and heard DJs get completely removed from the roster because it was part of their contract to be on time for sound check, and they were late. I have also had DJs be 30 minutes late for their own sets, which is even worse than being late for sound check, but don't be late for sound check. It not only is it bad for you because you don't get a sound check, it also puts other people off.
Silverhound's really great at both of those things.
I was hoping not to out anyone. Kelvin, Kelvin, we love you. Get on that.
Yeah, please be on time.
So be on time, be sober and mindful for your set. Your set's not going to go well if you are too drunk to hit the button. Which, I haven't seen that happen too many times at cons. Like, most people are relatively sober. They say that for after the performance, but just be ready to be professional. Get up there, hit play when you need to, or, play your stuff when you need to. Be on time, be kind to the people that are working with you, and, you're working with them. Bring up equipment issues, let them know, this part of the mix is bad, that stuff's not going through. And also keep your equipment safe, nearby, but out of the way. This is easier said than done with flight cases, because I can be a bit of a mess. This is more preaching to my own choir here. But just things to be mindful of. Be a professional, be polite.
Yeah. And if you make any last minute changes to your set, like on the day or the day before or so, tell the people organising it as soon as possible, because you don't want to spring it on them just before or during your set.
Yeah. As well, if you are allotted for a certain amount of time, there's some flexibility. Things happen. Setup might take longer, something might break, but ultimately, if you can, play the amount of time that you have, and have stuff prepared for if you need to play more. Also be prepared to bow out if you need to play less, but be ready with the amount of time you have. Again, preaching to my own choir here. But yeah, that's more or less the pre-show. And here's the performance. This is the best part. You are about to play your music to a crowd of fans who are extremely receptive, supportive, and open to what they're about to hear, as long as it's at least somewhat MLP related. Which is fair, You're at a PonyCon, you should play some, at least vaguely pony-related music. That's my opinion anyway. So, you might also mess up, because you are human. So that's okay. So, a lot of people, if you're new to performing, they don't know what to do. If your slip-up is minor, don't worry about it. Most folks won't notice. I hit flat notes like they are going out of style. People will still tell me that I sang well, and in the back, I'll say outwardly, thank you, and in the back of my head, were we hearing the same thing? Do your ears work? If your slip-up is noticeable, still don't worry about it. Brony conventions have one of the most supportive crowds I've ever played to. They're not going to be the kind like, you suck! Or like, you get off the stage! Because you missed one cue point, or, one of the string, a string is out of tune or something. They're here to have a good time. You're here to have a good time. It's going to be fine.
Usually they cheer you on when you fuck up. They love it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That means that it's real. It's happening. It's not, even if it is pre-recorded, it's like, hey, it's real, it's live, we're playing with you.
I don't know how many people were here for After Dark last year, where Black Griffin didn't even have a voice. He still gave it his absolute best.
Yeah. See, that's incredible, because it shows that they're still caring about what's going on. Oh, by the way, if your slip-up is catastrophic, was it BronyCon, or was it, recently I had a gig where I was playing something, and I was trying to load the next track, and I loaded it into the deck that was currently playing, which made it stop. Just dead silent, midway through one of the highest, with the highest focus points of the song. It's like, own it, laugh about it, get things back on track as soon as you can, right back on it. The show must go on. There is no time to go, oh jeez, oh gosh, this is so bad. Like, I mean, you can emote and things while it's going on, but ultimately, get things back up to speed as best you can. That's as much as you can do. Whatever you can do to keep things going. Instead of going, it's broken, I guess I'm done, I can't do this anymore, kind of thing. This is really just the, I use my voice impressions to destroy my voice, what little I have left, panel. Right.
I think can I just add something to that? In terms of when you make a mistake, as much as possible, try to just keep going. Because if you make a mistake and you keep going, most people won't notice. If you make a mistake and stop or pause for a bit, then people will know you've made that mistake.
Yeah.
So the best way is just, if you can, if it's possible, just play through it and keep going.
Yeah, if you call attention to it, then people will notice it. But if you don't, people are like, all right, that sounded weird, but it's groovy. This is part of it. This must be like interpretive dance or something. It's like, I don't understand it, but I dig it. Like, no matter what the slip up, just carry on with the show at hand.
You're saying that the MLP crowd is forgiving. Have you found that, like other groups like anime or that, how are they?
Anime cons are pretty receptive as well. They're, so my experience at anime cons is they're a bit more, okay, the pony music scene is very, I wouldn't say isolated so much as it's very true to its own core. You know, we're here for Brony music, we hear Brony music, we want to hear that. With anime cons, there's such a wide world of it, and there's so much overlap with, you know, with pop, with dance, with all these other things, to where the general expectation is a lot wider. So, they're generally receptive, and whatever you throw out there, as long as there's some, like, even tenuous connection. Like, you know, I play at a thing called BarCon, which is Blues Anime Rock, which is like the anime con experience at a bar. They're actually touring right now. I'm wearing their shirt. So, for instance, I play the Andromeda remix of KDA's All-Stars, thank you. And, I mean, it's not really anime, it's gaming, I guess, but you know what, it goes in, it's a good song, and people are receptive to it. They're a little bit less, you know, if you're not doing a good job, they're a little more likely to head back to the bar and, you know, grab another drink instead of being out on the dance floor, but that's a natural consequence. On the same token, they're there to have a good time. They'll, you know, bronies are a lot kinder, but anime fans are, I guess, a little bit more broad in what they will enjoy. That's more or less what I found. Yeah. So after your set, clean up after yourself. This takes me a while, but I do it. Stay out of the way, unless you've been told that you can hang out backstage or do whatever. If you're like chilling, like there's this little narrow runway here. If I was seated in the middle, like just right where you're chilling, like with my gear right there, I would expect that someone would like come around, just get out of the way.
That would probably be.
Please do if I ever do that. Yeah. Like just get stuff out of the way. Bring your equipment back from the venue. If you loan equipment to other musicians, like, hey, you know, do you still have the adapter? Like phone adapters usually. If you borrowed equipment, give it back just as good as when you received it. That kind of thing. And if you've been told to report somewhere specific, go there. This is less for, you know, BronyCon specifically, so much as just cons in general. Sometimes the organizer might be like, good, here's your pay, you're all squared up, we're done. And then when you've done all that you need to, get some rest, or you know, chill with the other acts that are doing their thing, or maybe you were the last act of the night. Go do whatever. I say get some rest because I can't necessarily tell people in the crowd that might be minors to go, you know, drink until you pass out, as I might have just done now.
No, that was not implied at all.
Of course, exactly. After the show. So you're a bit more free to relax, unless you have other obligations, like if you're doing a panel or something, but generally you can chill. Some good things that you can do to pass the time after that is, you know, you write a blog post or upload pictures from the show, respond to fans that might have posted their pictures or videos. You know, the next day is usually a good time to sell merch, artwork, or whatever it is that you're doing. And then find video that people have taken or that you took. You know, it's a good thing to take video of your own sets. And that can be used as an audition for the next con. Like, if someone just has your video up on YouTube publicly, I mean, don't steal. That's not good. But if they have, you know, include a link of you performing, include that. That's more that you can use for the next con. So that's sort of a way to find value from, after the show. Is there... I have words, but I keep losing them. I'm still jet lagged. But yeah, that's one way that I found for, value and whatnot. So after all that, there's some stuff, I think we've covered some of this before, like just throughout the day. But this was more like what I saw from like 2015, things that were going on. Like, you have to be popular. There are plenty of acts that are, that are getting booked at cons, super talented, super great. They do not get the attention they deserve. They're not getting the social numbers that's like in a perfect world they'd be getting that. It's not about that. We touched on it. It's about, can you perform and will you drive people out of the room if you do? Obviously those answers are not necessarily the same. Like, you want people in the room. That's the important part. Conventions play favorites and never let new talent in. For the most part, that's not true. If you have a rapport with them, if you've proven that you have provided value to them, then they might ask you back. With conventions being run largely by volunteers or, certain situations like that, or by, established liaisons, there are certain acts that may come back one time or another, but it's less about playing favorites and more like, okay, some will play favorites. I'll be blunt. I can't speak for every convention, but that doesn't mean that that there's not gonna be new talent. A lot of cons will be like, all right, so we need to shuffle in. We need a new round. We need new people. Conventions bring in the same like 5 or 6 acts out of 7. It generally doesn't go well because the show becomes a little bit stale. They might bring new songs, do things like that, but a lot of concerts they'll be like, all right, let's do this many new acts and this many folks from last year, and so on and so forth. That's what I found. And it could also be...
Can I just jump in there? So sometimes when you see conventions playing favourites, it's not so much that they're playing favourites, it's just that they might be 1 or 2 particular acts who put on a very good show, but also generally they're locals, like they're very easy to bring to the con, so it's business decisions more than that. They put on a good show, they were easy to book, let's bring them back next year. Well,
If they live next door to the venue, they're probably going to be coming back because they're very, very cost efficient to book. Business decisions. It's not necessarily you. Sometimes they might have wanted you, but they've already spent everything elsewhere, or they've already got their 5, and they don't have space for a 6th kind of thing, and so on. So that's sort of short on that one. Fans only want to hear electronic musicians. Last night we had electronic, we had acoustic. They all kicked ass. It was all fantastic. Like, this is one that I'm so glad I'm seeing fade out, because like we have bands. We have 2015 me is very happy.
I think the super band at BronyCon was one of the biggest crowds they had the whole time. So,
like, anyone that says that Brony music is dead, or even that acoustic Brony music is dead, has not been to a con. I can tell you that. Yeah. Like, the super band is real. The talent in the acoustic side is real. Do not neglect. Performing at convention will make me famous. Well, hell no. It gives you more opportunities, but if you're doing anything new, if you're just getting up there, hitting play, and then just scarpering once you're done, that does you no good. It's more on you if you are after fame. Like, what are you going to do when you're there? Like, you got to find your own value in that sense. Performers are just doing it for the money. What money? Most of us have and need non-music day jobs. There's a lot of expenses to play at these things. There's a lot of expenses incurred with just having the gear to play these things. And sometimes these cost more than we make. Like, even here, I'll be a little bit straightforward. I'll try not to violate any contract, but, flying me out here, the convention paid for my ticket out here, and I'm extremely grateful for that. That means a lot to me. And that is a significant expense to the convention. It also cost me a good bit to, just to get out here and to, organize things like this. I'm not paying the bulk of it, but it does cost money to, to buy food, to hire a taxi, to do the things that it takes to be at a convention. And sometimes that can be more than you're making in sales of CDs or merch or things like that. So there's not a lot of money in playing BronyCons. It's not to say that money's not involved so much as there used to be a joke of like, oh yeah, playing for those big Brony bucks.
oh yeah.
Those don't exist. Those are as real as the currency at Unicon. They're just not there.
If if you want to perform, play for the fun and enjoy it. Don't be in it for the money or the fame. That's not how you're going to get anywhere.
I mean, the real money's from liking, commenting, and subscribing. I mean, am I right? Also, convention shows are happy, fun times where nothing goes wrong ever. I am owed a position at a convention. I want to have the fun times too. They get all these people and they don't give me one, and I need to, convention shows are work. I remember there was a time when someone that's actually sort of on, someone that I've since made amends with, they were like, yeah, you shouldn't be booking these people. Why will I never get a thing there? It's like, well, did you prove that you have value? It's like, do you just see this as a happy, fun thing that people get invited to because it's a party and they know them? No. Convention performances are work. They take time, they take effort, they take struggle, they take things that cut into what you might be working on elsewhere. They're fun, but they are work. And it's not something to look down on as if someone's no one's just hopping up here and just pushing play. No one's getting up here and just strumming the guitar that they already for the songs. It's like, oh, it's only 3 chords. No. Entertaining and music are work, and performing at conventions is work. Just because money might not be huge in these does not mean that it's not serious work that we're doing sort of on our own time out of the passion of our own hearts. I feel like that is a bit less of a misconception that I've heard lately, but there was a time in 2015 where people were like, oh, if you're not already part of the Fun Time Train, you're not getting there. It's like, Fun Time Train? No.
Yeah, and it's pretty obvious when a performer is just phoning it in and isn't really working, and it makes for a less interesting show.
I agree. So many of the performers that I've seen in the circuit, and mind you, there's plenty of passion in the anime con circuit too. There's still people that love what they're doing. It's not on the same levels I've seen at PonyCons. People are here because they love what they do. Even the folks that might have been tired or tuckered out, or people that I've even in the past been like, oh wow, they're phoning it in. But no, the people care about what they're doing. If they didn't love this, they wouldn't be doing this for 9 years now? 8, 9 years?
8, yeah.
Yeah. This isn't something that you do because, well, here we go. Because you're not getting money and you're not getting fame, so you're doing it because you want to. We're here because we want to be here. And we're doing the work for that. Is there anything after that? Oh yeah, so more on the, just on the technical side of things. So, wrapping it up, apply to the conventions that you want to play at. Don't just limit to the big ones, play whichever, apply it all over, play the gigs that you want. Negotiate the terms of your performance and be ready to say no, be ready to hear no. That's a musician's not favorite word, but it's the one that we hear the most. Prepare efficiently for performance. Don't miss sound check. Deliver that performance. Meet any other obligations like panels or vending at the vendors hall, and start the cycle anew at the next con. And that's more or less the process of performing at cons. So this is the part where I didn't really have anything planned after this because this was based on a more technical thing than I think was the original plan. So at this point, we can just kind of go around, just talk about experiences, field questions, or what would you like to know about music at PonyCons, or flying around to these things, or just experiences in general. Should we get a mic down there?
Yeah, we got 10 minutes, so if we do quick fire questions, we can get through a couple.
Yeah. We don't bite. We'll do that kind of thing that Rottweilers do. We'll just set your teeth on, just kind of. Yeah, right there.
This is mainly just information that just I don't know, hack out since I got in here.
That thing's not being accurate.
Yeah.
The thing's been off.
Oh, yeah.
It's something I can't control right now.
To be fair, you're not missing much. I made this years ago, and I brought it back because it's like, oh, this is relevant to the thing that we're talking about. I might just need to tweak it a little bit. Yeah. Also, thank you for letting us use the laptop.
Yeah, there was something I wanted to add that I think should be mentioned. If you are a performer, whether you're looking to be booked or already have been booked, all throughout the process, be as responsive to the convention as possible. The people who are running the contests are very busy, and they don't want to spend time bugging you to get a response out of you, because they will drop you if that happens, generally.
It's just part of being professional.
Yeah.
And I say that having not been as responsive to AliCon as I probably could have throughout the year.
That's all right.
I mean, enough so to where I'm still here. Thank goodness. Thank you for having me. But yeah, it is important to get back to them. Like, if they're sending you an email, respond like within the day, at least.
Yeah, so if there's any questions, feel free to come up. Thanks.
This is also the heckling part if you wanted to get those in.
Yeah. Also, and this is another thing related to professionalism, even if like drama and issues happen with all the lineup and all that, try to keep any complaints you have private and direct to the con instead of just bad-mouthing them publicly on social media. That's generally not a good look.
Don't air the dirty laundry.
Don't air the dirty laundry. Especially in the US, all the con chairs know each other. So if you get in trouble with one of the cons, you'll probably get banned from a bunch of them. So don't bring the drama.
If I can piggyback off of that, that's not just ponycons, by the way. The folks that run ponycons know the people that run not ponycons. And that is an international network. There's a little bit more connection, from geographical location, but don't piss people off. Because word does spread, and if you, this isn't to say you're doomed forever if you make one mistake, but if you have a reputation for not being respectful, you're kind of done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the part where you're supposed to yell at him to play Discord some more.
Yeah, I'm out.
One thing that we didn't really touch on that I thought might be worth discussing is how to choose your set list.
Yeah, I like that.
Because one of the things that can happen when you're a performer is that the songs that you personally are most attached to are not necessarily the songs that the audience will react the best to. So you want to make sure that you have songs that the audience wants to hear, because at the end of the day, you're there to perform for the audience. So making sure that you've got songs that people like, show songs are always well received, stuff like that. Making sure that that you're putting on the best show that you can.
Might I introduce a caveat to that? I feel like playing to the crowd is perfectly good. I think there's also a point at which doing that too much might compromise one's show. For instance, I could come up here with just Best of Brony's 2012, and that could be well received, but it really wouldn't be the kind of show that I want to put on. On the same token, there's all these new songs that I've been working on that I would love to show you all, but I haven't done that much MLP material lately. Like, I did Discord 2019, I've done some in the last, within this year, but within the last 2 or 3, I've been a little bit less active. So, obviously there's some balancing to that. And plus I call myself a DJ, but I do try to have a general sense of which tracks I'm going to play next, as opposed to reading the room. That's a skill that I don't really have. So I feel like a balance of what you want to express and what goes over well with crowds is necessary.
And sometimes the crowd will surprise you. You'll play a song that you wanted to play, wasn't really expecting a response, and sometimes it will just go off really well. Like what Francis didn't.
The song I had second last night should have been the last song, because the response from that was a much greater response than what I did end up ending on. So I think in hindsight I would have swapped those two.
Before I forget, the Oats song is my new anthem. I love it.
Wait till you get the original.
Oh yeah. Last night was the safe for work version.
Questions, comments, vague remarks?
Here we go.
Go for it.
If nobody else has a serious question, I want to hear what was your first convention set like? How much are you laughing at yourself now compared to all those years ago?
Is that for everyone or
for everyone? Yeah. We go.
Okay. I think my first ever one was PonyCon Australia 2013, and that was basically me and a guitar, and I think also Feather was there as well. She's not active in the fandom anymore, but I look back on that footage and I noticed that I was doing a lot of the songs faster because I was so nervous, and I didn't really know how to interact with the crowd all that well, and things like that. So, yeah, you learn those kinds of things over time.
Oh yeah. So the first convention that I was any kind of performer at was the first BronyCon that wasn't twice a year, and that was just me hopping up with Alex and with Tombstone for a couple songs. But the first one I played myself was, I think it was Everfree that year. I'm like, how do you perform live? How do I do this? So I think I just had it was just the regular old MP3s loaded into main stage, and I would start the songs and they would finish and play all the way through like a traditional I don't know. I don't think even most acoustic sets will play a song all the way through and just there's the ending, okay, and then the next one there's even then they'll still string songs together sometimes. But that's how it was. Okay, this is the next one, and I tried to play stuff in, and it was just it was a mess. But what I liked was that it showed from there I had a framework. Okay, what don't I like about this, and what do I want to keep for future performances? So laughing at myself a little bit, but I'm not ashamed of how I did back then.
For my first DJ gig was last year at AliCon here. I felt fairly comfortable on stage because I've done a lot of stuff with bands earlier on in my life, so I guess that didn't help. So I don't really have much to laugh at because I haven't really grown a lot since then. So yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. Come on.
So my first convention performance was probably AliCon, was it 2015? The one in Gold Coast.
2015.
That's 2015. And yes, it was very similar to. It's a very similar set as to what I did last night. Actually, I think I even did half the same songs. Mostly what I've grown in since then is figuring out what sort of songs work well on stage, especially if I'm just by myself without a full band or whatever, and what songs really don't work well. I know I did one song at that first performance, that first convention I played at, where I think I bit off a bit more than I can really chew. I couldn't, the guitar just wasn't working. It was too much to do, so I've learned not to do that. But aside from that, it hasn't really evolved as much as you might think. So,
the first con I played was also the Gold Coast on 2015.
Is that the one where you were with the fun team?
Yeah, it was. That one was probably one of the smoother ones I've done because I played with a band that I've been playing with for 4 or 5 years beforehand. And then they broke up, and I didn't have them for around for the next one. So I guess the first con I played that was a little bit of a fish out of water would have been Running of the Leaves a few years later. And I played that. I went to America and I met a few guys, and we played a concert the next day, and it felt really rough to me from on stage. Because as the performer, all the nuances and all the ways things were meant to be. Yeah. But I guess you just kind of have to let go of your internal idea of what perfect is, because from everyone I spoke to afterwards, they couldn't tell that things were not going exactly as we'd planned it. But yeah, I think if I was to look back on that from my perspective now, I wish I had spent more time in the lead up just rehearsing my parts. But yeah, other than that, I'm not sure what else we could have done to change how things went.
I would just like to say that does happen a lot at pony conventions, where you'll get a bunch of people from opposite sides of the world just come together to become a band for one night. So you learn your parts separately and come together and maybe rehearse in a hotel room the day before, and it usually goes okay. It's always a lot of fun if you do that though.
Yeah. Or you're the drummer and you don't learn it at all and practice the night before with the band.
Yeah, it's the drummer.
Yeah, we're pretty much done.
Real quick, there's been a lot of the musicians discussion on it. Ty, I'd love to hear a little bit of what, as someone on the con side of things, what kind of things that you face with booking musicians or figuring things out in that regard. What are some of the challenges and triumphs that you face?
I think one of the biggest challenges we face is deciding who we want. So generally we will go for a main artist first that we want to headline. And that goes back to saying that you don't have to have a number of subscribers or listeners, but because there are other spots to fill. The biggest challenge that we have a lot of the time is getting that main act to the con. So if you can help the con in any way, if you live locally or you can get yourself there, that will give you a much higher chance. Because if there's a spot that needs to be filled and you are already coming to Australia from North America or whatever, you're going to be booked as opposed to the person that requires the $6,000 flights or whatever. That's going to be and again, just help the con where you can offer panels, offer to do meet and greets, VIP lunches and dinners, etc. Another thing I'll also add is when you are negotiating the contracts, the cons generally like it if you include something about social media in there, because exposure is everything. The more you can promote, the much higher chance you have of getting that.
Awesome. That's actually pretty insightful. I've been seeing a lot more of that lately in contract. Well, in things that I may not be able to discuss necessarily. A lot more recently. So that makes sense. I think we're kind of...
Yeah, 4 o'clock on the dot.
Oh, dang. So friends, this is the end of this panel for now. Thank you all so much for coming in. Thank you so much for sharing this just last couple of days with us. And yeah, be ready for whatever the next what's up, Nick? Nick, please let me stop talking. Be ready for the next panel. It's going to be great. Thank you all.